I think this promises to be a really exciting evening. I think it's going to be, I think everyone here is looking forward to this discussion, and we've got some wonderful people to talk about voluntary medical male circumcision, and they'll be talking about it in the context of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in Africa. And we've got a very distinguished panel of speakers. They're African leaders and government officials, all who have promoted voluntary medical male circumcision. Many of them are former African presidents and other well-known champions. In 2008, they formed what they call Champions for an HIV-Free Generation. And they will be able to tell us about their own experience and efforts in assuring that African men know about the procedure, know its benefits, and know any risk that may be involved in doing so. So we'll be hearing from them shortly, but I want you to also know that we have some distinguished guests in our audience as well. His Excellency, the former President of Zambia, Mr. Kenneth Kaunda. His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda. We also have with us His Excellency Mr. Njeuhmeli Shisano, former President of Mozambique. And Professor Weir of Kenya. To answer any additional questions that may arise during this discussion, we also have a team of experts from international organizations and U.S. government agencies. They are Tatiana Shumalina with the UNAIDS. She's the UNAIDS country coordinator from Zimbabwe. We have Mr. Warren Namara, UNAIDS country coordinator. Dr. George Alfred Key-Zerbo, program area coordinator, communicable diseases for the World Health Organization in the Africa region, and Dr. Caroline Ryan, Director of Technical Leadership for the PEPFAR program and the Office of Global AIDS Coordinator. So to begin, let me just perhaps offer one cautionary note to our speakers, since I'm sort of acting as the traffic mistress this evening. We would like you very respectfully, I ask, to abide by the time you've been allotted. I think you've all each been told how much time you've been given, and I've got someone who's going to yank my coattails when you go over, and so I will yank your coattails, or, I don't know. So I will signal you when you have 1 minute left, and please, I ask again if you could then very quickly wrap up your remarks. To begin this evening, Dr. Emmanuel Njeuhmeli will be getting us started. He's going to provide us with an overview of some of the key issues that arise when we talk about voluntary medical male circumcision. It's a subject, I can tell you, that he's very passionate about. I've been on the phone with him a lot since I agreed to do this. He's a senior biomedical prevention advisor at the Office of HIV/AIDS at the United States Agency for International Development, and co-chairs the Male Circumcision Technical Working Group of the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, which everybody knows as PEPFAR. And he's played a significant role in launching programs in East and Southern Africa for voluntary medical male circumcision. He will talk about the purpose of tonight's satellite, help us focus it, and why it is so important for Africa and why these people are so important for that process. Thank you. He will get us started.
Thank you, Brenda, for the nice introduction. And thank you very much for the organizer of this satellite, PEPFAR, UNAIDS, WHO, AVAC, and more importantly, the Champions for HIV-Free Generation, for giving me the opportunity to give this introductory address, part of this distinguished panel to talk about voluntary medical male circumcision this evening. This satellite is going to try to address key questions that I suspect most of you have related to voluntary medical male circumcision. There is a lot of passionate debate around this topic all this time. Some people in favor, some people against, and we hope that we can be able to provide some facts so that people can be able to have a very good understanding of the potential of this intervention. Brenda have already acknowledged the champions that are here with us this evening. So I will start very quickly by making sure that we have the science straight. Male circumcision have been shown to be a protective against HIV. There's no controversy around that, around the science. The scientific community agree that after the 3 randomized controlled trials, and the protective effect was actually estimated by WHO and UNAIDS around 60%, that male circumcision need to be an important component of the HIV prevention portfolio for countries with high HIV prevalence, low male circumcision prevalence. Those countries actually are all located in Southern and Eastern Africa. And as part of the recommendation from WHO, it was also very clear that male circumcision is not a magic bullet. It does not provide 100% protection, and because of that, WHO recommended a minimum package of services for countries while implementing male circumcision as services. And as part of the package of services, you have counseling and testing, you have screening and treatment of STI, risk reduction, and that risk reduction is actually age appropriate and also client appropriate. Provision and promotion of correct and consistent use of female and male condom. Active referral and linkage for HIV positive patients to care and treatment, and post-operative clinical care and reinforcement of education and counseling. So as you can see, the surgical removal of the foreskin is just one component of what we actually need to call a combination approach of intervention. So when we call this intervention voluntary medical male circumcision, you really need to look at that as a combination of intervention. And that gives you a sense that WHO and UNAIDS have had a lot of discussion before making those recommendations. Last year, we published a collection with PLOS Medicine highlighting the cost and impact of scaling up male circumcision. And we have estimated that in order to reach a maximum public health impact, you need to be able to reach a high coverage of male circumcised in those countries. In order to have 80% coverage of male 15 to 49 years old circumcised, you need to be able to reach a target of 20.3 million adult 15 to 49 years old. And you can see that depending on the country, Uganda and South Africa have to circumcise almost 4.3 and 4.2 million men in order to reach that coverage, while some countries like Namibia just have to circumcise 330,000, or Ethiopia, because it's focused in one particular region, Gambela, just have to circumcise 40,000 men to reach that level of coverage. And we have also understood that it's possible, focusing on adult circumcision, to be able to just have a one-time, non-sustainable program and be able to reach that goal. While in order to sustain that coverage that can be achieved with adult circumcision, you need to be able to build a long-term sustainable neonate circumcision in those countries. And this is probably the most interesting data coming from our analysis, is the potential impact of male circumcision in terms of reduction of incidence. You have in blue the absolute number of new HIV infections that can be averted over the next 15 years. if we can be able to reach that coverage. And you have the percentage of new HIV infection that can be averted. Overall, in all 14 countries, this is 22% of new HIV infection that can be prevented. In Zimbabwe alone, this represents 42% of new HIV infection. I want to stop here and repeat that. In Zimbabwe, by just scaling up male circumcision, you have a potential of averting in the next 15 years 42% of new HIV infection. But it seems very beautiful, but we also acknowledge that there are some challenges. And those challenges actually constitute a topic of a lot of debate around male circumcision. Let me address some of them. I only have 10 minutes, so I will not be able to give you really a detailed data, but related to risk compensation. So far, from the randomized control trials and also from the data that was published after the randomized control trial, there is no evidence that men after circumcision adopt riskier sexual behavior. And in fact, in our modeling exercise, we have found that even if 30% of men after circumcision suddenly decided to adopt riskier sexual behavior, instead of having 22% of decrease of HIV incidence, we will have 21% of decrease of HIV incidence. There is also a lot of skepticism of science, and I want to also address that upfront during this satellite by saying that we have to recognize the value of observational studies as opposed to randomized control trials. So randomized control trials are the gold standard in terms of evidence, and those 3 randomized control trials came with compelling data that male circumcision reduce the risk of acquiring HIV from female to male. There is also discussion about resumption of sex before wound healing. If HIV positive men are being circumcised and resume sex without protection before wound heals, yes, there is an increased risk of transmission of HIV to the partner. And it's because WHO and UNAIDS have recognized that there is a strong counseling and behavioral component as part of the minimum package of services. When men are circumcised, and I have to congratulate actually all the implementers and countries, because we observe a high uptake of testing among men who accept to be circumcised. Those who test HIV positive receive a specific counseling where information is being provided that they will not benefit of HIV prevention because they are already HIV positive. But there is a lot of reason why a man wants to be circumcised. And some men come and want the services anyway, for cultural reasons or for other reasons. And according to UNAIDS, we cannot discriminate and deny services to an HIV positive patient. But nevertheless, they do receive a strong counseling that actually we hope will allow them to understand that they have to abstain of having sexual relationship before wound heal. And even after that, they need to have a protected sexual relationship. We have also learned that male circumcision is protective not just for men. Our colleague Kawango gave a very interesting talk this afternoon around the role of women and male circumcision. It's important for everyone to understand that male circumcision offers a significant but indirect protection for women. And we can see in this graph that out of the 3.6 million new HIV infections that can be averted in the next 15 years, almost 40% of those are actually among women. And this was observed across all 14 countries. It is a cost-saving intervention also. We have estimated in order to circumcise 20.3 million men in 5 years and to sustain that coverage 10 years after those 5 years, an investment of $2 billion is needed. But the cost saving over 15 years is estimated at $16.5 billion. And this is a cost saving against expenses that might occur for care and treatment if those men are HIV positive. Just to show you how powerful male circumcision is, in Zimbabwe, you just need to circumcise 4 men to avert 1 single HIV infection. In Lesotho, Swaziland, 5 men need to be circumcised in order to avert 1 HIV infection. Last year in December, one of the chair of the Champions for HIV-Free Generation, together with PEPFAR and UNAIDS, launched the WHO-UNAIDS Joint Strategic Action Framework for Acceleration of the Scale-Up of Male Circumcision. And so far, between the recommendation made by WHO in 2007 and in March 2012, almost 2 million men have been circumcised by the program. And you can see how actually the program have evolved between 2008 and 2012. Okay, the moderator is making sign. But just quickly, I think that I want to achieve this talk by saying that we have also learned out of the 5 years of implementing male circumcision that what is important for us to have an efficient male circumcision program is to be able to have an effective demand creation, some level of dedication of space, human resources, and commodities.
I think we'll get an opportunity to return to